I'm Kimberly Prather. A fourth-quarter rally keeps ACU unbeaten at 5-0.
And I'm Grant Boone. We'll tell you why brown and purple never looked so good together. We'll also preview a jam-packed October that will make or break the Wildcats' bid for a second straight conference title. It's the Chris Thomsen Show next. Welcome to the Chris Thomsen Show from the JMC Network studios on the ACU campus. Grant Boone, Kimberly Prather, and ACU head football coach Chris Thomsen. ACU now 5-0 for 2009 after that 44-33 comeback victory over Eastern New Mexico last week. Coach, to borrow a phrase from former Cardinals coach Dennis Green, Eastern New Mexico, they are who we thought they were. A really good offensive team last week, wasn't it?
Yeah, Eastern really did a great job against us. Even their defense, I thought, played well, especially the first three quarters. And I think they'll beat some teams in the South Division. I think they're a team that will win at least a couple of games going down the stretch. And they gave us a great fight. It was fortunately able to rally in the fourth quarter and win the game, but it was a great effort on their part.
Going into the game against the Greyhounds, you're coming off of a 14-game win streak, such high expectations from last season. How do you stay focused and stay positive, especially when you guys were coming from behind all game?
Well, that's what we talk to our kids about all the time, and we've been in that position, a couple of different times this year where we were behind in the game, and so I think that served us well, just that experience at Commerce with Northwest Missouri, some adverse situations in those games. So I think our guys were able to respond, and they kept their heads up. Justin Johnson really got us sparked with the kickoff return. That helped the whole sideline. I mean, the demeanor changed, and everybody got a lot more positive at that point and able to finish the game.
All right, we will take a look at the highlights from ACU against Eastern New Mexico and see what Brown did for the Wildcats. You're watching the Chris Thomsen Show. Back at the Chris Thomsen Show, before we look at the highlights from last week's victory over Eastern New Mexico, Coach, as I was talking to some of the players before that game against the Greyhounds and their top-ranked offense, especially some of those defensive players, were really excited about the chance to go up against a much ballyhooed offense like Eastern.
Yeah, 76 points the week before. Your defense, if they've got any confidence about themselves, which our guys do, loves that type of challenge. And they were excited. They were ready to go and did a great job.
All right, let's take a look at the highlights against Eastern New Mexico last Saturday night at Shotwell. Couple of first downs for Eastern, and then J.J. Hart picked off by L.B. Suggs. Great depth that you guys have developed defensively, Coach, the last couple of years.
Yeah, Eastern came out on fire on that first drive, and L.B. Suggs, a redshirt freshman from Dallas, one of those we traveled 10 outside linebackers, or 10 linebackers total, and he's one of those guys that hadn't gotten to play a lot. Big play.
All right, ACU takes over and begins to pound the football. Reggie Brown, he goes for better than 100 yards in the first quarter alone, 19 right here.
Yeah, Reggie, getting behind big Travis Turner, the offensive line did a really nice job. And in the first half, Eastern held up very well, but they were able to wear them down as the game went on.
Well, you line up for a field goal here, Coach, and then Clark Harrell comes out of the crouch there and lofts one to Trey Simeon. A great one-handed catch. They rule him out of bounds, but they call a penalty on the play. What was the deal?
Well, the referee, the way he explained it, it is a deceptive play. You're trying to get your tight end hidden in the corner over there, and they didn't see him till the very last second. But I'm still unclear on the rule. He said that we were trying to deceive the opponent, which a lot of formations you do, you're trying to deceive the opponent, but I still don't really understand the call on that one.
Well, you guys hold Eastern on a 3-and-out, and then Zach Stewart finds your big freshman tight end, Ben Gibbs, who seems to do something really good every game.
Yeah, Ben stepped up. That was a big play, kind of got us going. We were struggling a little bit on offense, and that was about a 24-yard catch, I believe, so it was a really big play for us on the drive.
You make it down to the 23 of Eastern New Mexico and try a 40-yard field goal attempt, which misses wide right from Ricardo Navarro, and that would kind of be a theme as the game went on. You wound up switching place kickers.
Yeah, we let Ryan Owens have a shot, and I think he ended up 3 or 4, hit some really big kicks for us down the stretch and helped us win that game.
All right, after another 3-and-out, the Wildcats unable to score, turn it back over to Eastern, but then Tony Harp picks off J.J. Harp with an amazing catch here from your senior free safety.
Yeah, that was great man coverage right down the middle of the field. Tony just in the right spot all the time, and it really paid off for him here. This was a big play.
I'm not sure which was better, just finding the ball again or making that catch as he's falling. Great job by Tony Harp there. And then more Reggie Brown to close out a 100-yard plus first quarter, 35 yards right up the middle. He ran between the tackles all night, Coach.
Yeah, he really did. And you know, in the Commerce game, he struggled a little bit when he got into the secondary, making people miss. But Saturday night, he did a great job on their safeties and got some big runs after first contact.
All right, here is the aforementioned Ryan Owens, and there's a great look at the young man. First collegiate points here, Ryan Owens.
Yeah, Ryan's a transfer from Tulsa. Was at Tulsa last year as a redshirt. Didn't really get the opportunity to kick and was looking for a place where he'd get the chance. And obviously our kicking spot was wide open this year. So he'll be a valuable contributor the rest of the year.
Well, that made it 3-0 ACU. A couple of 3-and-outs for each team, and then you guys punt. And big Jesse Poku unable to hang on to it, and Courtney Williams a big play.
Yeah, that was a huge play by Courtney. Courtney's a Washington State transfer. Does a great job on special teams.
Well, then, after ACU takes over possession here, you're inside their red zone, and then Zach throws it to the other team. Tillman Stevens, a nice catch and run.
Yeah, that was, you know, obviously kills your drive there. Zach just threw the ball high. It's been just kind of a theme there, inconsistent play at that position.
Well, you gave Mitchell Gale a chance. He comes in and fires a bullet here to Edmund Gates out on the far side.
Yeah, Mitchell came in and really was in rhythm. Obviously on that out route right there to Edmund, really dropped back in a really sharp throw.
Well, and we would see more of that from Gale to Gates. And actually, here's a great catch by Chris Fowler first. But, boy, you see the power arm of Mitchell Gale, and it sure makes you think that good things could be ahead for this guy.
Yeah, Mitchell's got great potential. He's a big, strong kid with a really, really strong arm.
Well, and then I thought a nice heady play here and nice touch for a guy with a big arm to loft it over the D-line to Darrell Richardson.
Yeah, he was just showing his ability to scramble. He's a really good athlete. Got outside the pocket there and dumped that ball to Darrell. Big play for us.
Well, another disappointing drive ends with this field goal attempt. You do get inside the 10 again. Ryan Owens does make it 6-0. It would stay that way until late into the second quarter. Nice play by Richard Havens there, and a nice play by your defense. Again, this is the #1 rated offense in the nation, and yet you guys really bottle them up. And really it wasn't until you guys turned it over on your own 1-yard line that Eastern finally found the end zone. Nice pass and catch there after the turnover.
Yeah, you really, obviously you can't do that to your defense. Give the other team the ball coming off on a 1-yard line, and it really put them in a bad situation. But they played really well up to that point.
Yeah, and it did actually take them 4 plays after they got it at the 1. All right, so it is now 7-6. Next drive, Mitchell Gale drops back and maybe just what, trying to make a little too much happen here?
Yeah, a little bit unsure on his read, just a sign of inexperience, and then not protecting the football. Got hit pretty hard and the ball came out.
And then just 90 seconds after their first score, it's J.T. Thomsen, a guy who played in this area in high school, and Thomsen does the classy thing. He hands the ball right back to the official there and makes it 13-6.
Yeah, it was really, you know, you go into the half and you talk to the team, and basically, you know, we've given them everything that they've gotten in the game. They really hadn't earned it. Just, you know, turnovers had contributed to the points, and that's something we have to eliminate.
Well, with less than a minute to play, you guys put together a pretty nice drive and a great play by Edmund, who juked the defender, made him think he was going out of bounds, and took it down the sideline.
Yeah, the defender just kind of fell asleep, and that was a chunk play that got us into field goal range.
Well, and again, you're talking about stealing points, maybe putting points on the board you weren't thinking. Owens with his 3rd field goal of the half. And so it's halftime, it's 13-9. You had done some good things, but I got to believe that the overall tone of that halftime message was pretty harsh.
Well, we, you know, actually tried to keep it positive. You know, our guys had really been surprised there with the turnovers. So just really tried to keep it positive and basically tell them we've played about as poorly as you can play, and we're still very much in the game. So we knew we were going to get the ball coming out of the locker room, and just wanted to stay positive and keep those guys upbeat.
All right, so that second half begins ACU trailing 13-9, and you guys do get the ball to start. Unfortunately, Zach Stewart has this pass picked off by Mark Patterson. This is a team, Coach, that is top 5 in the nation in interceptions, and they take one back here for the distance.
Yeah, definitely not the way you want to start out on that first drive. I think immediately it's 20-9, and that's really, you it's a blow to your team, just morale and the confidence going into the second half. But they were able to bounce back.
Biggest deficit of the season, and then Dennis Campbell telling Justin Johnson, no, no. And Justin Johnson says, oh, yeah, all the way. And watch the blocking as Justin goes 100+ yards for a huge answer to that pick six by Eastern New Mexico.
Yeah, this was big. I mean, it's got our crowd back into it, got our sideline back into it, and gave us some much-needed confidence at this point. And Justin with some great moves there and picked up some big blocks. Huge play. They
counted 100 yards officially. So it is now 27-16 after Eastern scores again, but then Zach Stewart finds Edmund Gates over the top.
Yeah, our guys really proud of them. They just kept answering back. Each time Eastern would deliver a punch, they would counter punch and finally swung our way.
Eastern New Mexico led it 30-23, and then Reggie Brown went to work. Coach, the last 16 minutes of the game, he rushes for better than 100 yards.
The great thing there is, a couple of weeks ago, Reggie wouldn't have made that run. He was running into safeties, and he really worked hard on avoiding safeties and had a big run there because of that.
And then as the fourth quarter begins, your team trailing 30-23. The first play of the fourth quarter, actually after an offsides penalty against Eastern New Mexico, is Brown into the end zone. There would be more where that came from. Reggie Brown makes it 30-30 after Eastern took a 33-30 lead. Really, we see your defense once again rising to the challenge and holding a guy like Poku to virtually nothing after the catch.
Yeah, Poku's a big, strong guy, and then we really talked about wrapping him up all week. I think our guys did a great job on him.
All right, so ACU gets the ball back, and again, you give it to Reggie Brown. He goes 15 yards after a shanked punt, and after trailing by as many as 11, you guys now have the lead again at 37-33.
Yeah, we've kind of taken back control of the game and the momentum, but still, we, at this point, it's still very much in doubt. Got to keep playing as hard as we can here.
Huge play after a penalty against Eastern New Mexico on a kickoff, negating a really solid return. J.J. Harp throws his third pick of the game, and what a catch by Major Colbert.
Yeah, the defensive front got some pressure on him there finally, and he just threw it up, and Major made a great athletic play to intercept the ball.
And then one play later, Reggie Brown, his third touchdown of the fourth quarter. He must have broken the tackle of everybody in an Eastern New Mexico uniform there. He goes for 26 carries, 235 yards. And then Darrell Richardson finishes things off with a 52-yard run. And the final score is ACU 44 and Eastern New Mexico 33. So, Coach, just again, if there's any identifying characteristic about this team this year, I've got to believe it's just finding a way to win.
Yeah, it's just find a way to win. And Hart, the interesting thing about that game was Eastern had been running over 100 plays. You know, we were concerned about the play total. And we actually ran in the 90s in the total plays, and they were down in the 70s. And I think it showed they really wore down in the fourth quarter, and the run game got to them.
All right, ACU goes to 5-0 with that 44-33 victory. Back with more on the Chris Thomsen Show after this. Back on the Chris Thomsen Show, Grant Boone, Kimberly Prather, and ACU head coach Chris Thomsen. Coach, just looking at the scores from last week in the Lone Star Conference, I guess the thing that jumps out at me more than anything is just how close some of these scores are.
Yeah, all the South Division scores very close, and some of those games pretty low scoring. Speaks to the defense in the league and just the parity that we thought the league would show.
Well, you're looking at 4 teams in the Lone Star Conference South with undefeated conference records. And again, the conference championship is determined on conference record, not just division record. But, really, you're looking at 3 teams, ACU, Texas A&M Kingsville, and Tarleton State, who are undefeated for the entire season. There's really no way to tell how this thing is going to shape up, is there?
Well, and Angelo State's only losses to a Division I school. So then you got West Texas, who's very, very talented and is starting to play a lot better. And so it's going to be an extremely tough league.
Coach, the unquestioned hero for ACU was Reggie Brown, rushing for 235 yards with 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter alone. Scott Stewart caught up with the game-winning running back on this week's On the Grid.
Yeah, I came out of high school. I went straight to Abilene Junior College, played 2 years there, and then Coach Thomsen came to recruit me to come play for ACU. And I had liked it very much, and then Bernard had came here, and he went to Abilene. So I had found a good way to just come to ACU.
He's a very tough player, and he's very smart. Those are his attributes. You know, from day one, he picked up the offense. You know, it's real easy for him. You know, just doesn't really blow assignments, and he's just tough. You know, he's a real tough football player.
I like ACU. It's very different and get closer to God, and the coaches are very, very cool, and the team, I like ACU. Yes, I played in my game after Emmitt Smith. He was a great speed and power back, and a lot of people compared me to him, and that's like I just like to watch film on Emmitt Smith and just go back and just watch him and trying to compare myself to him and just make moves like he would.
He reminds me a lot of like a young Natron Means. You know, Natron, when he played back in the day, you know, he's a Carolina Tar Heel, and in the league he played for Jacksonville. He was a real tough runner. You know, wasn't really a speed guy, but he got a lot of yards because he could grind and he could move in space, and he was a smart player, and that's really what Reggie brings to mind for me.
Expectation, hopefully the team, we just go real far, making it to the championship, things like that, and hopefully I run over like for 1,000 yards, just like to be a big help to the team.
Coach, there is precedent for a Abilene college transfer coming into ACU and having success. It happened with Bernard Scott. I think about patience with Reggie Brown, not just, as we saw in the highlights earlier, waiting for some of those holes to open on the offensive line, but also having to wait his turn because he's got some pretty good competition in that backfield.
Yeah, we brought in 3 transfer running backs in the fall, all very gifted players, and Reggie's been a little bit frustrated at times like they all have. They all want to get out there and carry the ball, but he's done a great job of staying patient, continue to work hard in practice and in the weight room, and when he got his opportunity, he really shined on Saturday night.
Reggie definitely saved the football team's undefeated record. And another team looking to hold their undefeated conference record is the soccer team. They are riding a 4-match winning streak heading into conference competition for the duration of the season. The Wildcats look to remain undefeated in conference play this weekend, facing off against East Central on Sunday. I caught up with the Wildcats to see how they are preparing for the heart of the season.
We are 6-3 right now. We've just won 4 straight, so we're doing well. We just beat Angelo 1-0 for our first conference win on Friday. And so this weekend we have East Central and Northeastern, 2 more conference games that we're favored to win against. So we're hoping to come out of this weekend 3-0 in conference. The winner of the regular season play will get to host the conference tournament. Right now, we're hoping to do that. We'll know, of course, how things are looking, you know, midway through season. But as long as we keep winning our conference games, it puts us in a good chance to host.
The teams that we've played against, even the really good ones, we've held our own, and even if we have lost games, we know why we've lost, and it hasn't been because we didn't play up to those players' abilities. It's just because maybe we let a fluke goal in or something like that. We're striving to make the conference tournament for sure and hopefully win conference. This year, I think conference tournament is in Dallas, and in the past it's been hosted by the conference champion. So we want to win a conference, and then at the conference tournament we want to win the conference tournament. We feel that we can do that and hopefully go on even to the national championship.
And good luck to Wildcat soccer. And when we come back, we'll preview the East Central football game.
Back on the Chris Thomsen Show, take a look at the Lone Star Conference standings. And in the South Division, you see that you've got 3 teams with perfect division records. Tarleton State, one of 4 South Division teams with perfect conference records. As we head into the first Saturday in October, and there at the bottom you see East Central University. And as we look at East Central, this week's opponent by the numbers, Coach, really the numbers just don't look very good, and there's really no other way to say it. This team has struggled all season long.
They have struggled, and the big problem has been their offense. Their defense is actually playing pretty well, but their offense is trying to find its way. It's a brand new coaching staff. You know, Coach McCarty took over this past spring, just a new staff and new players, a lot of young players. They're trying to build a foundation for the future, and but also a dangerous team that can jump up and beat you if you don't play well.
Well, Coach, let's talk about this game that'll be played tonight. Really, you're talking about a really tough October schedule. When you look at Angelo State next Saturday, that'll be in San Angelo. You come home for a homecoming against arch rival West Texas A&M, and then that gauntlet at the end of the season with Tarleton State on the road, Kingsville home, and then that final game against Midwestern State up in Wichita Falls. The tendency here maybe is to think of this game tonight or this afternoon as a trap game. How do you get your team to avoid thinking that way?
Well, you just rely on your senior leaders. You know, we've been in this situation quite a bit the last couple of years. We've got a lot of guys that have been through that situation, and you really don't need to look any further than the last couple of weeks if you think that you've got a team beat. The halftime of the Southeast Oklahoma game, we're up, and we give up a big lead, or not give up the lead, but struggle in the second half, and so you hope that your team's mature enough to handle the situation, and I think our guys are.
East Central is coming out having a very good defense this year. Your defense is also having a great season. Is it going to be defense against defense, or how are you going to get your offense to play up to the level of the defenses?
Well, you just hope that week to week you've made progress and improvement, and I think we have on offense. We almost 600 yards of offense last week. That's a lot of total yardage in a football game, but the problem is turnovers, and we're just inconsistent. The week before against Southeastern, we didn't turn the ball over. Last week we turned it over 4 times against Eastern. So if we get that problem fixed, and the defense has played consistently well, so it's very encouraging. We get the turnover problem fixed, I think we can win any game that we're in.
All right, let's talk specifically about that quarterback position. We saw all 3 quarterbacks play last week against Eastern, and all 3 had moments in which they did really well. All 3 also made some mistakes along the way. Who are you going to start this afternoon against East Central?
Well, that'll be really a game time decision. We've thought about it. We've evaluated it all week. All 3 of those guys, like you said, have done good things. They've struggled in some ways, and so we're going to look over the week of practice, see who we want to start. But we told those guys on Monday, all 3 of you guys before the end of the season was probably going to end up helping us win football games, just like has happened the previous 5. So those guys just got to be ready to go out there and play and perform when their number's called. All
right. Now, in case you're wondering how in the world we're going to get to Ada, Oklahoma in the next 90 minutes or so, we have recorded this week's show. So the game time, 2 o'clock kickoff from Ada. Pregame show at 1:45 on Classic Country 1470 here in Abilene and the Big Country, and every week on ACUSports.com. For Kimberly Prather and the coach, Chris Thomsen, I'm Grant Boone. Thanks for watching The Chris Thomsen Show. We'll see you next week.